Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Columbus This Week. I'm Eric, and I'm here with Trevor, bringing you all the latest news, events, and stories that impact you here in the great city of Columbus. So, Trevor, I think we're going to start off with an update for the Fireball story that we covered last week.
Yeah, so last week we didn't have any real details on what had happened to the ride. It was under investigation. The investigation has released preliminary results, and we sort of have an idea of what happened.
Okay.
So the company KMG International had been operating this ride for about 18 years, and apparently there was corrosion on the interior of the gondola support beam, and just year after year, the structural integrity just corroded away, and 18 years later, the thing fucking broke.
So can they not detect that? Like, isn't that the point of inspections? I don't know, like, what's going on with that. That doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know how something like that happens.
So what I think here is the moral of the story is do not ride the rides at the fair overall, especially when you have like this whole corrosion thing. It's like apparently they're not even like doing a good job checking any of these things. So I don't, So just if you're going to the fair, if the fair is already over, thank God nobody else died. Just don't ride the rides. Don't even go to the fair. Well, nobody's even going to the fair anymore anyway.
Well, so the interesting thing is how does something like this actually happen? So you have to think either the rides. I mean, either the rides aren't being investigated, or inspected, or I mean they're just not doing a good job.
Right.
And I'm not sure which is the worst case.
It's probably the case of both. They're not. Well, I mean, you kind of said the same thing. So
right, but like this ride has existed. So let's say they even have like once a year checks, right? So at what point does this become unsafe? Because I feel like if this corrosion kept happening, this should have happened a decade ago. This ride should have been put out of commission, and at least that part should have been replaced, right?
I mean, maybe. I think what that might be telling us, though, is that whoever actually built that thing did a pretty good job of, because if it fell apart due to corrosion, then that means that thing's probably been through a gauntlet of wear and tear, and then it took 18 years they've been operating it, and it finally like gave out.
I mean, that's a giant piece of metal, though.
Still,
the larger the piece of metal, the longer it's going to take to corrode, just like with anything.
Right.
All right. Well, so
interesting.
Should we get into events?
Yeah, well, so what do you got for us this week, Trevor?
Well, right now, I don't know that there's much going on in Columbus, but COSI is actually having a Farm Days event. So to make a long story short, Farm Days is basically COSI's big initiative to sort of show people, and particularly children, where their food comes from, what grains look like, what like wool looks like before it's processed, that kind of stuff. Just interesting farm type stuff. Cool. Right? I think at one point I went to something like this and you got to like stick your hand in the stomach of a cow.
That's pretty gross, so I strongly advise kids not to do that.
Well, no, you have like a rubber glove.
That's still gross. I've seen that on TV. It looks so great. Like imagine somebody drilling a hole in your stomach and then just somebody else just sticking like some baby fingers in there or something.
Well, I've like done that. I've like put my hand on when I was young.
In your own stomach?
No, in the cow's.
No, but I'm saying imagine if it was you. Like, could you imagine that?
Well, I don't think you could get away with that. But anyways, so if you want to learn a lot about farms and grains and if you have kids and you're listening, and you're interested in taking your kids somewhere or finding out what's in your food, it's happening the 9th through the 13th, 10 to 5 at COSI.
Cool.
And that's about all I have for events.
Nice. I'm a big fan of COSI anyway. It's overall it's a pretty good institution. They do a lot of cool events and stuff, so I'm sure they're gonna put on a good production with Farm Days. So.
All right, so now for community news.
Cool. Okay, well, I'll start it off. So one of my favorite topics to talk about always is housing and downtown stuff. So right here, I've got a good intersection of both of those two things that I love. So Columbus, there's a good roundup, and we'll post a link to this. But it's kind of paywalled, so that sucks. But there are 16 projects that are going on right now downtown Columbus. So, Trevor, I don't know if you've been downtown recently, but there are cranes everywhere, and it is fantastic. Every time I see one of them, I'm just like, praise the crane. They're like little churches to like. I just want to go pray. Like, thank God you're building stuff. Thank God Columbus is being better and more urban and everything. I love it.
I have to imagine every time you see a crane, your eyes just light up with dollar signs. You're just watching your property value rise.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's pretty cool. So I was reading that after the construction of these the downtown area has a 96% occupancy rate. So that's not the short north. I mean, that's like downtown, like next to Nationwide, next to the Levesque Tower, next to like all those buildings down there. And then, so that's cool. And then we're going to probably break 10,000 people living downtown in Columbus this year. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I think it's good. I think, basically there's nothing bad happening with that. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yep, more construction is always good.
Yeah. Things are a booming, as they would say, and out in the boonies, also in the suburbs and all those areas. But if you look at Columbus, 3, 4, 5 years ago or something, it would have looked that's a short amount of time. And even then, it would look totally different. Things wouldn't have been like. I think it would have felt unsafe going out at night. I don't think there wouldn't have been as many local businesses that are popping up or any. There's no people. There were no people to sustain those. So. I think it's pretty good. So, but all right. Anyway, so moving on. Another cool thing that's going on. There's some rumors going on with New Albany is looking at building a 700. Well, in the city, like not New Albany themselves, because they obviously have no technical expertise. But they're looking at. There's somebody, we don't know who it is yet. One of the rumors is Amazon, but. And then Microsoft's another contender here, but building a $750 million data center in New Albany. So I think that'd be pretty great. I'm a big fan of, we were just talking about construction, so any sort of new buildings, jobs, any of that kind of stuff, bring it on.
I don't get the value of dropping data centers in a place like this, though.
Yeah, I think, with a place like New Albany, they were probably looking at. Okay, so if you're working at a data center, you're being paid reasonably well. I mean, you're not making a crazy amount of money, but you're not, living like meager. So there's that. They can't just drop them downtown, so you got to start looking like outside 270. So we're gonna put it in Dublin or Hilliard. Amazon just put one in Hilliard. I think there's something in Dublin. There's like Grove City, but that's Grove City, so I don't know if you want to put anything down there because it's kind of too far south, in my opinion. So they put someone. I think Amazon also built one. Did they build one out by Reynoldsburg or something like that? I'm not sure, but anyway, I think largely it's just like the demographics of people already living in New Albany and all that stuff. But
yeah, I know for secure private data centers, they always put them out in really remote fucking areas where nobody has any idea that they're there.
Yeah.
Like they'll drop them out in the middle of like nowhere, Kentucky. They'll just be an unmarked building.
Yeah. I was reading, so while a lot of them are out west in like Nevada and stuff, and part of that reason is they get so much sunlight, so they can power them with solar cells and it's cheaper and everything. But like the biggest data center in the U.S. is. I think actually let me rephrase that. I think the biggest data center in the world is 7.5 million square feet. Like, how crazy is that? That is humongous.
Is that the data center? Because I know Google has one data center that runs underneath a river for the cooling effect of the water just constantly.
No, so get this. All the like the biggest data centers in the world. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up while we're chatting here. There's a huge one out in there's a cool one in like downtown Chicago or like Lakeside, I guess. It's like 1.1 million square feet and it's inside of like a brick building, and it looks like a nondescript data center, and then it's just like, oh hey, it's a casual like million square feet data center. Let's put an exabyte here or something like that. So you gotta say stuff. I'm just like rambling because you're not saying anything.
Well, I guess I'm just not that interested in them dropping a data center. Amazon putting a distribution center here I think is interesting. This is less so. And also, we don't even know who's dropping the data center here yet. I
Yeah,
would actually be surprised if it's Amazon because they just put one in Cleveland. All right. So what else we have?
All right. In other news, related news, Eastland Mall will close on Sunday, September 3rd. Long live the mall. The mall is dead, except Polaris and Easton. Tuttle's got its name. That's give it like 5 or 10 years, and Tuttle's gonna be out of there too. But
Hasn't Tuttle been dying for like 15 years straight?
yeah, I remember when it was built too, because like I grew up in Marysville, so like when Tuttle was built, that's closer to us than it
Yeah.
was than Easton was. So that was like the big thing, and then it's just big box retailers, and like nobody's interested in that anymore. It's like, why would you want to get, like, they had eventually they had like a Best Buy like small shop in there.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to go to that when you could just go across the street and go to like the actual Best Buy? And then they just had like all your traditional Sears and Macy's and all those other stores I don't ever shop at because I don't have any interest in doing it.
Yeah, I'm a
so.
huge not mall fan.
Yeah, so
I mean, even Easton, I could do without.
Yeah.
Even Polaris, I could do without.
yeah, I'm not very fond of either of them, to be honest with you. I mean,
In general, I just don't think I don't think brick and mortar retailers can compete with the internet long term. Just
No, they
can't.
can't.
Can't happen.
well, it's not only that, but like, you know, if you, let's say you want to go buy, like, let's say you were going to spend money on, like, you know, probably overspend money on like clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why would you go to Macy's and buy imported Chinese stuff, or like whatever country it comes from, that you're paying like 30 times what it costs to manufacture, when you can go like have somebody hand make you clothes from some shop in the short north, or at least there, like, you go there and you can like actually meet the owner or something instead of.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on the opposite end of that market. I'm like, why would I pay Macy's $30 what the clothes cost when I could pay Amazon like 7 times what the clothes cost?
Yeah, or I mean even Walmart. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not an anti-Walmart guy or anything, but
And I hate the ridiculous sales tactic, and everyone does, right? Everyone hates the bullshit sales tactic of hey, this is 90% off. It's MSRP of $200.
yeah, they just make up whatever MSRP they want. They're like, yeah, this thing was this shirt was $40,000, but we marked it down 99.99%, and it's $3 for you today. And it's like, it's obvious, but on the other hand, I think you'd be surprised because, you know, I was reading, I don't know where I was reading this, but it was like Reddit or something the other day, and somebody was like, yeah, I saw this deal, like it was some post about like personal finance. They're like, yeah, I saw this deal for this thing, and it was $5 off the normal price, and so I bought it, and now I don't use it. Like, I don't, like, that kind of, that never like enters my mind.
Yeah.
So I can't fathom that. So the retailers are, I mean, they're probably following the data and following what a bunch of people do with their actual money. So
Yeah.
for people like us who are better with it, I guess.
Yeah, we're not the intended target of their tactics.
So that's why we don't get it, huh?
I will say, though, Northland's dead. Eastland's dead. Tuttle's going to die soon.
Yeah.
God bless. Death to the malls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you exclude all the bad shops and all of the, like, 99% markdown jewelry stores that sell you crappy stuff, or, you know, God forbid, used furniture from the second Macy's at Tuttle, like, I don't know what was going on there. You also have to take into consideration the, like, parking lot being not full very often, except during Christmas or the day after tomorrow, also known as Black Friday, also a movie reference. But and then on top of that, it's like, all right, so you have the parking lot, which that sucks because it's just not used at all, and then you have the giant footprint of the entire mall. It's very inefficient. It doesn't make any sense. And then you have just a bunch of bad stores. It's just like the perfect storm of like everything I hate.
Well, how do you feel about Easton parking?
I mean,
The footprint's a lot smaller at the very least.
yeah. So at the very least, I'm not a fan of parking garages but I'm less of a fan of parking lots because at least the parking garages can blend into the surroundings there at Easton. And
Well, you just don't like parking garages because they allow people to have cars conveniently.
well, that's part of the reason. They're also really ugly. Like if you go downtown, you know, and they look at parking garages, there's just like a big gray, stupid building, and they didn't even make any attempt to blend it into like the natural surroundings.
I mean, a lot of factories are the same way, though.
But I still don't like it.
A lot of labs are the same way, even.
Yeah, I still don't like it. I think buildings and, you know, parking garage, like, even if you're gonna have parking garage, just make it look nice. Like, stop being like a giant piece of crap and like skimming money to make this stupid parking garage and then not even, you know, make it look nice. I can't stand that. It bugs it. Every time I drive, like they're building the new one down by the Columbus like police department or something, and it's just this stupid building. It looks so stupid, and it causes all this traffic because you have people lined up waiting to go through like the stupid ticket booths and all this stuff, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. But
I do think they can make them look more attractive at times, but you know, part of that is you gotta have the money to pay off people in order to build the developments in the first place.
Yeah, that's one of it. I think they should just not build them, and then that would.
It is so crazy how common that actually is with parking garages in particular.
If anything, they should tax the hell out of parking garages to actually have people pay for their true use and like pay for the true land value. I mean, you're going to tell me that, you know, I don't know how many square feet or like a 2 acre or whatever parking garage isn't worth a lot more money than it is than, you know, for like some other construction project. Like, I don't know. I think it's just
depends on where it is. Completely depends on where it is.
Well, yeah, but they don't build parking garages where the land is like really cheap. Also, you know, like Polaris or Easton.
And also sometimes they're a necessity. Like at Easton. Easton could not survive without those parking garages.
Well, that's the whole point. That's why it shouldn't. Like, if you can't, like, so look at an area like the Short North. There are people pile into that place all the time. They do have a parking garage down there, or they actually have a few. But what do they do? Like, there's the parking garage, I think, on Russell Street. And if you like take a left and it's one way, and it's like right next to Lemongrass Fusion Bistro there, which is a good restaurant. But you take a left there, and then it's like you just take a left in the parking garage. Like, you're away from all the traffic. The parking garage is off, like, out in the middle. It's like, you know, segregated off. You don't have to look at it because it's stupid.
On the other hand, I actively avoid going to the Short North because parking.
Well, that's the whole point. Like, that's good. That's a good thing. Like, then, because the reason that's good is because when you make the parking bad, like when you make getting to an area bad enough, then it keeps it from getting too crowded. Because people then, like, let's say you, for example, you're like, oh, I don't want to drive down there because I don't want to deal with parking, even though parking's not actually that bad. But
I mean, I usually just park in Victorian Village if I have to go there.
Right, you should just park at Lemongrass because it's like $2 for the whole day.
Well, Victorian Village is free, and I just walk half a mile.
Yeah, so I still think you should just park at Lemongrass, but I mean, what's $2? But
what's half a mile?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd rather just park there for $2. So, but anyway. So what happens is, it's the same thing with like having, you know, more expensive meters or something. So you have way too much demand to like park in the Short North or park on like the sides, you know, on the sides of like the meters and stuff. So when you raise the prices, it makes people get in and get out faster. And the same thing with parking is like it makes it so that, you know, let's say you, for example, and you're like, I want to go to the Short North. Instead of going there all the time and having easy parking, you make it more of a special location. So instead of, you know, a whole bunch of people driving from the suburbs and cramming into the area, making the parking even more miserable than it is for people now, they're just like, they just go there less, and that's a good thing. So, because otherwise, like, you got to find out, there's some sort of balance. Like, you got to find a way to, like, stop people from over-subscribing, if you will, to going down to these areas. And then the other part is, like, if you just pile it in with car traffic, that just defeats the whole purpose. Like,
well, so speaking of driving, should we talk about COTA?
Yeah, you got some couple good stuff.
So there's been a couple of developments since COTA. We just talked about them last week too. So technology is finding its way to COTA, whether the bus drivers like it or not. They are introducing Wi-Fi on the COTA buses by the end of the month.
Not a fan, but go on.
Why not?
I just don't really think that it makes sense. But, you know, I'm not a COTA bus rider, though, so I guess I will defer to their judgment in this particular case. But
I mean,
for just driving the buses around, I mean, if you were commuting, like, if you were taking the bus to, like, Polaris and you could get there in a reasonable time, or, like, Dublin or something.
I used to do that. I used to commute all the way to Polaris on the bus.
Yeah, but how many people are doing that?
A
lot? I mean, if there's a lot of people doing it, then by all means, you know, do the Wi-Fi.
So they only send 2 buses up. So I'd say probably about 65 people. That's what you're looking at.
Well, that's just that one route, though.
With that one commute to Polaris. Well, the 2 commutes to Polaris. But, I think it's good for commuters. I think there's a real possibility of them running into a San Francisco type problem.
Which is?
So on BART, BART being the Bay Area's
rapid transit.
Yeah. It actually encourages the homeless population to spend an inordinate amount of time on the buses.
Okay.
That among many other things. I mean, they just have a huge homeless problem in general, but it doesn't help the problem, right? Because, it's free Wi-Fi. Anywhere where there's free Wi-Fi, you're going to encourage some group of people to hang out.
Really? On the bus? Like, I get miserable riding on the bus because of, like, just the stopping and going and just being in traffic and doing all that. That sucks.
I mean, your standard of life is a lot higher than most people's.
That's true. Well, most homeless people probably, but...
You got those few homeless guys out there who have it much better than you, though.
Yeah, there are those homeless people who they're not actually homeless and they just ask for money. So speaking of the short north and homeless people, don't give them money, please. Thank God.
Yeah.
You don't do anything but just make everything worse. Everything everywhere.
Yeah, so, I generally agree with that statement.
Yeah. So keeping going with CODA, so here's a cool thing. Columbus was actually featured on citylab.com, which is a great website for all the urban planning, that kind of stuff if you're interested. But so I already knew this was going to happen, but it's nice seeing Columbus be actually mentioned in a national publication. But so the city's going to subsidize basically CODA bus rides for like 40,000 or so employees.
Yeah.
Like working downtown in Columbus. I think it's a fantastic idea. And we were talking about the parking spaces and stuff earlier. So looking at, according to City Lab, so I can't verify this or something, but that's saying that a parking space in Columbus costs $25,000 a year to operate. I don't really know how they come up with that number. Maybe it's...
That number seems artificially high because I might buy that for like downtown type area.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay,
only downtown.
Okay, all right. I can buy that, I guess.
Yeah. So they're actually trying to do something, which is subsidize the bus rides. I'm a fan of that because at some point you just have to move to a higher capacity, and what's more natural to do than to, of course, everybody who's listening, especially if they're on Reddit and stuff, are going to complain about light rail, they're pulling their hair out, but buses are, they're a pretty viable alternative to doing that. You can pack how many people on the bus? 60?
My thoughts on the bus is that it's basically all the worst parts of public rail mixed with all the worst parts of driving.
Yeah.
At
least you're not driving though.
I'm really not a big it is by far the worst form of public transit.
Well, it is, but then the alternative is people paying. At some point they're just not going to be able to build spots, and then people just literally are not going to have places to park. And then what? What do you do?
Well, so the only positive attribute buses have is they're able to be accommodated in an existing road structure.
Right.
But in general, they're just so shitty, right? Rails are never as dirty as buses. I don't think anyone would ever disagree that buses are like the worst.
They are pretty gross. Like even the C bus is kind of starting to get kind of nasty.
No, it's always been not great.
The C bus is okay compared to the regular CODA buses.
Well, you've never ridden it through like Whitehall or anything.
Well, I've never ridden a CODA bus through Whitehall.
Oh.
I've ridden a CODA bus. It's been a long time. So anyway. The point here, though, I think it's cool that the city's actually just like trying to do something about it instead of just saying, screw everything, screw public transportation, everybody fend for yourselves, and then fill the whole downtown area with parking garages or something.
Yeah, I will say I prefer it versus turning more of the land into parking, I guess.
Yeah, because if all the car people had it their way, everything in the world would just be a big parking lot. Everybody would just drive their cars there and just park in their parking garage and all that stuff, and then,
it's too late. That's already happening.
Well, it's slowly unhappening. That's the thing.
The downtown is an exception. It's not going to expand out anywhere else. This isn't going to happen in the short north. the barista making coffee is not going to get subsidized for not taking a car.
No, like they. Those people in particular aren't, but they live in the surrounding areas where it's like they
Maybe.
how else,
Maybe.
where else are they going to park? Like how are they going to get to work?
They don't necessarily.
But how are they going to get to work? You can't park at their meters all day.
No, but you can park close enough by that you can walk.
I mean, you can. Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. Like people are going to have. I mean, either way, at least they have to walk some portion of that. And at some point, I've already seen and heard rumblings about people in the Short North, Victorian Village, and all those, complaining about people who don't live there parking there, especially at nighttime, and the city's going to start permitting it. And then eventually it's going to be just like it is in German Village, where you can't just park on the streets and then just walk to go to work for 10 hours or whatever. Which I'm glad about, because you got to find a way to force people to stop doing that kind of stuff.
They won't get rid of the car problem. Because you know what city is...
Oh, they'll just start towing everybody's cars then.
Well, you know what city is super permitted just like that? And it's still fucking Cartopia?
What?
San Francisco, basically.
Yeah, but it's...
Look at every other city the size of San Francisco. They are much more public transit.
San Francisco is more sprawled out, I think, than Columbus is. But still, a lot of people... I mean, they have a rail, like people ride the BART.
I mean, they have a rail, but on the other hand... I mean, Columbus is the largest city without public rail. Yeah. So I mean, that's a given that they have it. But like it's Cartopia, and like everything is permitted, and all it does is it fucks over the poor people.
Yeah,
people have to walk a mile.
But they're gonna, well, kind of. I mean, I don't know. Like there are a bunch of people who work downtown who aren't necessarily in a high socioeconomic, place, and they're gonna be subsidized for the bus routes.
Well, my point is more that like in San Francisco, you either have to walk 2 miles to work, or like you have to pay something that you can't afford.
Well, so that's the thing. Then at that point, people will just move, or they'll refuse to work downtown, and then prices will rise. Like you can't just like say, okay, well,
I'm just telling you what is happening in San Francisco currently.
Well, and so that's why when you go to San Francisco and you go to like some coffee shop or something, you're paying a bunch of money for that stuff. The same thing in New York.
They still don't make that much. They make like $16 an hour, which sure is a lot of money for unskilled labor, but not in San Francisco.
So my advice to you is, if you're not getting paid enough because you want to... so for one, I think living in San Francisco and New York is a luxury unto itself, because you get to live in those cities. So,
yeah, I mean, that's
so you're paying, like, whether you know it or not, you're paying for that luxury to be able to, like, drive by the Google office, I guess, or
yeah, people are
whatever.
People are scraping by and making their own lives miserable in order to live in the Bay Area.
They are. I mean, they really are. Like everything from software engineers to people who are making coffee or working at grocery stores and stuff. And it's like, if you can't afford it, save up some money, buy a plane ticket, move to Nebraska. The cost of living is way cheaper. And I have no interest in the it's too expensive to live here argument. It's like, well, if you can't negotiate a higher wage and your life's miserable because you're living there, there's a whole big country to live in.
To be fair, though, it's not like baristas have the ability to collectively bargain, right? There's no baristas union.
I mean, they could start one. I don't see how it's any different than steelworkers starting one. I mean, if they're easily replaceable, then I still think you should just move them.
I think we jumped all around, though. Let's move on to the next topic.
Yeah. So.
All right. So, in more upbeat, positive news, sort of a transity story, Pelotonia actually had a world record-breaking 8,000 plus riders participating in their 9th annual ride, and raised over $15 million.
Nice.
For cancer research.
Yeah, I have nothing but positive vibes from this. It's a great organization. They do great stuff every year.
Yep.
And it's,
you and I actually met with got stuck in the parking lot with the CEO of Pelotonia at one point.
I think it's Doug Ullman, I believe is his name. But yeah, that was pretty funny. He came to speak at Startup Weekend, and we were trying to leave that night.
And the stupid gate broke, and he was right behind us.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, you just gave a big talk about all the great, like your experience and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." We got stuck in the parking garage with the CEO of Pelotonia.
But yeah, great organization. Really amazing how much money they managed to raise.
Yeah, One thing that's kind of funny about that is that I know some people and they like volunteer to ride. So
my girlfriend did even.
Oh, did she? Okay.
Yeah.
So you can build teams and then ride like parts of the. It's like 100 miles or something like that. So yeah, you can build teams and like not have to ride the whole thing. There's like I've met people who like signed up and then they don't have teams and they're like they still feel obligated. So like they do minimal training, if any, and they just go like try to go ride 100 miles
and they die.
Just, like, can't do it.
Just fucking pass out.
So
great event regardless.
Yeah, I think it's good. So I'm glad we have that here too in Columbus.
Yeah,
Columbus has a huge medical presence, so it's good to have.
Well, medical and health in general.
Right.
Even if you just like look at like something like I don't know, fitness, right? So like strength training, bodybuilding. We have the Arnold here. We have Rogue Fitness, which is arguably the best like mass produced fitness equipment in the world.
Yep. Plus, the other cool thing is the it's a little bit more nerdier, but. Two of the largest, Cardinal Health's headquartered in Dublin, so they're the largest. I believe they're the largest pharmaceutical distributor, and then I know AmerisourceBergen has a place down on the south, not the south side, but like Groveport or something like that too. So, and it makes sense with all the hospitals and everything.
So I just realized we're shilling Columbus for people listening to a podcast about Columbus.
Yeah, well, we're just we're upbeat about the city.
So someone out there is just jerking off furiously to the positives of Columbus.
Yeah.
Now that we've gotten off the car topic.
Yeah.
All right. So what's next on the agenda, Eric?
All right. So I think next we're looking at some cool tech news. There's one that's very out there. So I'm sure our savvy listeners have heard of the Hyperloop, and they may or may not know that Columbus, Chicago, Pittsburgh. So Trevor, basically what they did was they kind of launched like not a startup, but because a startup, I think it just has a different connotation. They kind of started like a business, like interest group, people who've got some money to do tests and that kind of stuff around the Hyperloop. And so they looked at some different routes. So you can obviously imagine like LA to San Francisco is a route, or New York, DC, Philly, like that kind of stuff are routes. But
makes sense.
Chicago, Columbus, Pittsburgh is one of the routes, and they have like 11 finalists where they're going to actually try to implement the Hyperloop. I actually don't really think it's going to happen anywhere because I think it's far too complicated. There's some talk about doing it on the East Coast, but East Coast probably like needs it, but I just don't see it.
No way in hell.
There's just way too many. There's way too much politics. There's way too much. You can't
build conventional trains. I listened to a different podcast episode about this, and like the cost. The minimum cost of just using eminent domain.
Yeah.
To connect all the major cities, sort of north of North Carolina, that's on the eastern seaboard, is like $14 billion. That's just to buy up the land in the cheapest possible path you could take. So the path of least resistance there is $14 billion. It's just it's not feasible.
Yeah. So that kind of brings me to something I'm hopeful. So I don't think Hyperloop will happen anytime soon. I might just we'll see. But it does kind of give me hope that the Chicago, Columbus, Pittsburgh route might actually be kind of feasible because of the cost. So I think it makes sense because Pittsburgh's an anchor city for the state of Pennsylvania. Columbus is an anchor city for Ohio. Chicago is Chicago. It's obvious. But between the three, you can move a lot of people, there's a lot of, you can move cargo, you can move people. Between those three, I think, it wouldn't cost as much. And plus, there isn't an existing rail infrastructure really. Chicago has rail obviously, but there's no real infrastructure already here, so it's kind of like I think it's more of a better testing ground kind of route than I would think. Obviously it would have a better impact for like the north, like the Northeast or something, but I just think it's never going to happen there.
Yeah, you've got to take what you can get as far as that kind of really, really nice public transportation.
Yeah.
And just with how densely populated and how sort of gridlocked the eastern seaboard is. There's just no way.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever looked at a major road map of the U.S.?
Oh, it's crazy.
Like, the East Coast is just like road.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's so crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it. I don't know if we'll see it before we're old men.
Well, I think if it's going to happen, we'd see it before then. But you know, I just don't see it. It just seems too cool. Like, there's just no way. But imagine what that would do for, I mean, not just for Chicago and Pittsburgh, but so, you know, obviously I'd be happy for those cities to be partners. But for Columbus, I mean, imagine there's like a Hyperloop terminal in downtown Columbus. Can you imagine the economic development that would bring? I mean, because you're not only shipping people, like, you move cargo through that too. Like, that's one of the big use cases. And then with Columbus being like a big cargo hub, more or less.
I mean, I would argue with the opposite point, though, because it's not like Columbus is hurting for interstate transit, right? We're Columbus.
Right. But it would make it better. That's the thing. It's like, it would be so much more better to ship things from Columbus to Chicago to Pittsburgh. Being able to do all three of those like in one route. I mean, you can build something in Chicago, you can have it in Pittsburgh in 40 minutes or something?
We do already have trains that are doing the exact same thing, though.
But not as fast. That's the whole point.
How valuable is that? Is that speed, actually, though?
Probably pretty valuable. Amazon would like it. Instead of 2-day prime shipping, you get like, I mean, I guess they already have 1 hour delivery, but they could expand that. So
I mean, yeah. So there's logi benefits, but I don't think they're like in the tens of billions or something. I mean, it might be like a billion or so.
Oh, I think it would be crazy because just the ability to experience the Hyperloop, just that alone would drive tourists here. I mean, people would flock here just to ride it. I mean, they'd flock to Chicago probably too, but I'm just saying, like, people would flock to one of these destinations just to ride that.
I was talking material transport, logistics in particular. I'm not talking about people.
Oh yeah, but
like, I think the major use case is people.
I think it's both, but I mean,
because you might not know this, but like 80% of rail use right now is for shipping goods. So like, it's not
I'm surprised it's that low. I would have thought it was like 90%.
People take the Amtrak.
Huh?
People take Amtrak.
Yeah, but you know, I don't know.
I mean, you can get from like LA to like Seattle on just via train.
Really?
Yeah. It's not much faster than driving, though, is the issue.
Yeah. So that's not good. So yeah, looking at the article, if it got up to top speeds and stuff, you could literally live in Columbus and work in Chicago or Pittsburgh. It's like it's a 29-minute commute to Chicago and 18 minutes to Pittsburgh.
Well, it's faster than flying. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So that's the other. I mean, you know, in general, you're talking about people and stuff too. But imagine like if you have to move like health goods or something like that too. Like, what if you're doing a heart transplant at the University of Chicago? And you need a heart from Pittsburgh. You know, I'm just saying. I think there are a bunch of tangential use cases.
Yeah, those are edge cases. I don't think they'll make up a huge like economic segment, but they're interesting.
Yeah.
But
anyway, I mean, either way, it would be great if that came here. I'm not like getting my hopes up or anything like that, but it'd be pretty cool. So
next story.
All right, so I guess another thing. This is a little bit more of a national tech story, and I don't know. I mean, it's not like tech related, as in like something like the Hyperloop or something like that. But
I mean, it's related to the tech community, I think.
Yeah. So I keep seeing grumblings, I guess, articles and whatnot about. So with the Trump administration, they're looking to basically curb the H-1B visa program. You know, kind of. Not really reversing immigration, but just kind of slowing it down, it looks like. Just based on, you know, what I've seen so far. So, you know, if you think that what I'm saying is incorrect by far, you know, or please, like, let us know.
Well, so the point here, but as far as I'm aware, the big plan is to make it significantly more expensive per H-1B employee in general, right?
Right.
Because their minimum salary is going to have to be significantly higher.
Right.
And honestly, I'm all for it. It makes sense.
Yeah, so the larger story here, which I think is, on one hand, kind of amusing and cute, and on the other hand, it's kind of bothering me. So so Trump gets in, there's all outrage, whatever, and then now there's all these countries, more or less, coming out of the woodwork saying, like, oh, we want your Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and techies and engineers and all this stuff. So, like, the president of France, or the newly elected president of France, he's like, we're going to be the Statue of Liberty for engineers and scientists and all this stuff. And then people are talking about immigrating to Mexico and whatnot. These people do not understand at all what's going on. So let me put it this way: if you can't afford to pay somebody $100,000 in Mexico City, you're a joke. Okay, if you're trying to compete with Silicon Valley, like, you're an absolute joke. You're just never gonna. There's no way you're gonna compete with that. And that doesn't even include. I mean, why would a venture capitalist, like, they have all the money, they have all the power. Why are they going to relocate to Guadalajara?
So VCs aren't leaving, founders aren't leaving, and engineers potentially could, but
but you're going to have to pay them some salary that's better than Silicon Valley. I mean, I love Mexico. It's not about Mexico or anything, but. And so, I mean, Mexico, we just brought that up, but I mean, Canada is trying to do the same thing. Like,
so the only two countries I think that have a shot at stealing engineers, and I'm not talking about VCs, I'm not talking about founders or CEOs,
just like regular engineers.
Canada and the UK. Those are the countries that could do it.
Yeah,
and maybe to some extent Australia, right?
Yeah, like, but their problem is they do not pay anywhere close to enough.
Well. Except for London.
I mean, London pays well, but it's still not comparable to San Francisco, because you still have the cost of living of London, but you're still not getting paid as much as you are in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially not after taxes.
Right. I mean, granted, you're getting healthcare and all that stuff, but in the U.S., if you're working for these companies in Silicon Valley, they're paying for your healthcare, so that's a non-factor.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, the quality of care is better here if you have
access to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something it's just been bothering me, because, so for example, the one that really bothers me though is, so I traveled to Mexico. I love France. That's one of my favorite countries in the world. I would love to live there. But I was really kind of annoyed with the president going on this almost like PC moral crusade to, like, bring engineers and scientists to France so they can fight global warming. And so again, I'm anti global warming. I'm pro global warming. I don't know if that's, like, I believe in it. I mean, it's not even a belief, it's a fact. So I, like, accept that as a fact. But
so here's my thought. It's ultimately just a political statement, and it's going to
which is what bothers me about it.
Well, no, what's going to happen is it's going to have some effect on some people, and it might encourage some engineers who weren't thinking about France to start considering France.
Yeah,
which is good. I mean, if you look at Macron's policy, he's a very, very capitalist sort of continental European, right? I mean, he might as well be like the libertarian left equivalent of like somebody in the U.S., right? Yeah. So like a Green Party aligned kind of. Well, no, I take that back. Somewhere between the Greens and the Libertarians, right? That's sort of where he aligns.
But yeah, so that's what bothered me about it. So like, I'm an engineer. Do you think I can just immigrate to France tomorrow? Be like, hey, I'm an engineer, like, I want to move to France and, like, start contributing.
No, it'll take a couple years.
Yeah, exactly. On top of that, I just don't think they'd let you in anyway. Because what they're really looking for is, A, political gain, being popular and cool by saying, we'll take all your good engineers and all this stuff. And, I mean, they're not really they don't have the capital in places like, like Paris or something like that. They don't have VC funding. They have an oppressive, insane, like, starting a business is just impossible.
Here's what it does, though. Let's say you submit your application, right, and a bunch of other people do. They can, I mean, their candidate pool just increased, right, and they can just scrape the top of that and offer to those people. And so there's. What is the downside of Macron releasing this statement?
Well, I'm not saying there is a downside. I'm just saying it annoys me. And on top of that, like, why aren't you taking in more refugees then? Like, I mean, if you can take in more people, I mean, that's what the U.S. is being criticized about all the time too. It's like, oh, you aren't taking in enough refugees. Meanwhile, Canada and Australia, two notable countries, Switzerland, for example, they only take in people who can demonstrably contribute to the economy because they have a PhD or they're an engineer or something like that. So to me, they're just blowing a bunch of smoke, and it pisses me off.
In Canada, I mean, explicitly will not take single males. They only take families, women, and
Yeah,
children.
what the heck? Like, it's just it's ridiculous. So
honestly, I'm fine with that policy, especially because in the refugee communities, almost all the violence comes from the males.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't just take all the. You can't just be like, oh, we'll take all the women and children. That's sexist, I think.
I mean, it may be, but
I mean, you can't just because some men have do violence or or whatever. It doesn't mean you can't just like say screw them all.
You can do what you want. It's your country.
I mean, you can, and I think it's really hypocritical and shitty. But anyway, this is the overall articles like this are really well. A, they're complicated. B, they're pretty emotionally charged. Whether you're on the in the U.S. at least, whether you're on the right or left or whatever. It doesn't really have too much to do with Columbus, but it just kind of making me mad because it's like. Why would you relocate to Mexico? Like, why not relocate to Columbus? Like, we're cool. We don't have as good as weather, but,
we have more interesting weather.
That's true.
Alright, so should we move on to the feature?
I think we should, and it's, we're still going on with Silicon Valley, so...
What is our feature, Eric?
Alright, we are... So, Trevor, I think, a few days ago, maybe a day ago or something like that, there was a guy, he was a Google engineer, which calling him a Google engineer is one of the first big problems here. Everybody's like, oh, it's a Google engineer who wrote this. No. Who cares about that?
Stop.
What?
Not even Google engineer. You know the phrase I keep reading because I've read like 3 articles about this. Over and over they say Googler.
Really?
They fucking
That's
say
even worse. Well, the article we're going to give to our listeners from TechCrunch calls this guy a Google engineer. But so the first annoying thing is he just keeps being called Googler or Google engineer. Either way, the fact that he works at Google, why does anybody care about that? I mean, yeah, it's like a great company to work for, but I mean, besides that, working at Google doesn't all of a sudden make you like a super smart person and an authority on everything. Like. So for one, that just makes me mad because I don't care about that at all. Like I don't care if this guy works at Google. I could go work at Google. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Let's cut to the heart of the topic.
Okay. So anyway, basically this guy came out and he wrote a big paper manifesto, some are calling it, about the effects of diversity initiatives at Google, and. He came out and I think a lot of people thought that what he wrote was sexist and racist. But on the other hand, I've been seeing, and I'm kind of glad because so I'm going to go ahead and say I haven't read the whole memo or much of it because I just don't have time for some guy's opinion.
Right.
Yes, I mean, I have better opinions than this guy, so I don't really care to read his.
But he's a Googler, so clearly you don't.
Yeah, so whatever. But anyway, so... what he came out and said was he was arguing that men are inherently better at engineering than women, and that's why it makes sense that there are more men doing it, and that the diversity initiatives weren't, helpful, and they were just bringing in more people who think along the same lines. And then everybody just blew up. Everybody, coast to coast, everybody freaked out and said, "Oh, this guy's a big sexist." People were calling him a Nazi and all that stuff. So. I guess the larger thing here is, so again, I haven't read what he said because again it doesn't really matter that much to me, but the overall discussion I think is important, and especially given that Google's under investigation for gender pay discrimination, which obviously is bad. So I'm just going to go ahead right out here and say that I think man or woman, you should be paid the same for doing the same work. That's a given. If you don't think that, then send me an email so that I know who you are so I can block you so you never send me an email again. Because I don't want to listen to you, period.
So here's my objection to that thing. And it's not even really an objection, but you hear people talk about the gender or wage gap all the time, right? Like even President Barack Obama had mentioned it at one point. And that's mostly nonsense, right? By and large, across industries, people tend to get paid the same for the same job. And that sort of breaks down at the CEO level and the CXO level, but that's an extreme example. So I think this idea that people get paid differently for just because of what's between their legs is kind of nonsense. It's a not real thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I looking at the statistics, maybe then there's what people say they've experienced. So I'm not going to take a position on that either way. But I'd have to look. I mean, I just have to be more educated on that particular topic because I don't know for sure what the pay gaps are. So
I mean, this might surprise you, but among our age group, our demographic,
I think women are being paid more than men.
Yeah, women make 100 to 103% of what men do.
Yeah.
Things really start going south for women when they start having kids, and what's the other big factor? Yeah, kids are the biggest one, right? Because first of all, there's pregnancy, and then one of the parents generally has to commit to
right.
taking a few years off of work in order to raise children.
Right, and then on top of that, the U.S. has crappy paternity leave laws. So if you're a mother, you basically have to take the time off, even if the father was willing to do so or something.
Yeah, fathers tend to get 2 weeks, and mothers get maybe a couple months.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, some companies fathers don't get anything. It's just yeah, that's great. You have
it's not mandated by states typically.
Right. But I mean, so anyway, also I want to say here though what I want to say here though is I mean we both are fully supportive. If you do the same work, you should get paid the same. No question about that. If it's the same work, same job, whatever, don't care what you look like, don't care what's between your legs, don't care how old you are, the same work, the same experience, same pay, period. So, and then, like I said, also with skin color, I think in this article, the guy kind of talked about that diversity effort's not really working well, really. And to me, that was one of the things that I kind of agreed with. So I don't think that somebody, so for one, being of any sort of skin color, regardless of what it is, or any sort of nationality, or any sort of, whatever, anything that you can just look at somebody and know, it could be predictive, but it is not a guarantee that somebody is automatically more diverse than you. For example, me being a white guy, if I go to Japan, I am diverse now because if it's an all Japanese company, that makes me a diverse person because I come from the United States and I have X background, totally different experience than what somebody from Japan does. If I went to high school with somebody who...
So I don't disagree, but I will say a lot of people do disagree with that.
Right, and they're wrong. So that's something you need to recognize.
I think that's sort of the current left-leaning zeitgeist right now, right?
Right.
And I think the argument sort of goes even if you're in Japan, worldwide, white people are sort of the dominant and normalized group.
Yeah.
And therefore, yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's a little bit of truth to that. I mean, I do think there's some normalization there, but at the same time, it doesn't trump the fact that if you live in if you move to Tokyo tomorrow and you work for an entirely Japanese company, you are a diverse statistic for that company. You are a part of the diverse. They don't have diversity efforts there, obviously.
No,
at least not like they do in the U.S. But
you just decrease the diversity.
Yeah. So so there, there's that. It kind of got me off topic here, but So what I was gonna say was, if I went to school with somebody from let's say high school or something, growing up here in the Columbus area, and that person happened to have a different skin color, that doesn't make them that doesn't if I'm looking and then I go to look to hire somebody, and the fact that they have a different skin color and you looking at that and thinking that is what, and thinking that makes them different is inherently racist.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's what made me so mad about reading the article, reading some of the reactions to the article, is that everybody just immediately flipped out with everybody who's not white is not a white guy. Don't forget that white women are diverse too. So everybody that's not a white guy is diverse. And I'm hugely in favor of, or as Trump would say, usually.
So we brought up these statistics a couple of episodes ago. So I just want to point out, white males are 31% of the population. So
right.
So essentially, that's 69% of the population is diverse, and then 31% is not.
Yeah. So anyway, what I guess what I was gonna say was I'm a strong supporter of programs, especially at companies and especially at universities and other institutions, which seek to promote bringing minorities and women into fields that traditionally they haven't ever been able to get into, because I mean, there are facts, like, you know, a lot of society's been white male dominated, and that's, I mean, that's, I was gonna say that's fine. It's not like fine, but it's like, that's fine to accept that as a fact. And I think we should do a lot more to encourage people who historically haven't, they've been underrepresented, underprivileged, and they should have the same opportunities that anybody else does. So that's what I think about that.
So,
but I'm just, so there's that. So I just want to say that as like a caveat, but your skin color has nothing to do with you being diverse. It's predictive, but that's where it ends. Because anything after that, I mean, if you, how can you say that? So for example, if you're at Google, so this guy was called like a Trump supporter. I would argue being a Trump supporter is far more and working at Google or anywhere in San Francisco or Portland, God forbid, if you're a Trump supporter and you live there, but if you were like a white guy Trump supporter or something like that, I'd argue you're far more diverse than like somebody from Brooklyn.
Wasn't there somebody in Google senior management recently just like wrote an article about how Google has a conservative problem in that they don't have any.
Yeah. And I mean,
like, diversity of opinion just doesn't exist there, right? Like,
and that's what the large problem is.
I mean, you're anywhere from like the Google spectrum pretty much runs the left. I mean, pretty much runs the West Coast spectrum,
right.
which is anywhere from like libertarian leftish to like communist.
Yeah, and I mean, I would fit in there because that's more of where I fall along the lines.
Communist?
No, more like libertarian left, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think these companies do kind of have a problem because to me, I mean, if you're Google, you should start recruiting people who live in, like, I don't know, Atlanta or Appalachia or something like that, because you need diversity of opinions and thoughts, not diversity of where somebody was from or what's between their legs. Like, that's because you could just as easily bring in, I mean, if you're bringing in a whole bunch of people that already live in San Francisco, let's say, and let's say they all, I mean, this is a lot of generalization, so that they all have kind of the same political spectrum or the same kind of experience, that they all went to Berkeley or Stanford or whatever, and then now they're all working at Google. You just have a bunch of drones. That's all they are.
I don't even think it's politically viable, man. Like in the company, I think it just causes too many problems, honestly. Yeah. Because just look at the VC world. There is like one sort of conservative VC guy,
Peter Thiel.
Yeah, and how many articles have been written about Peter Thiel?
Yeah, he is kind of a genius.
And how shitty a person he is.
Right.
I mean, it just like you just can't you know, be right of center and be in Silicon Valley. I just don't think it works for most people.
Yeah. Or I mean, yeah, I would feel I would bet, I'm willing to bet, and please, you know, email us, let me know if I'm completely wrong. But I would be willing to bet that, like, if you were, let's say you were like Christian, and I'm an atheist by far, so I'm not really defending, I don't like religion at all. But if you were let's say like a Christian, I feel like, and like you're like or a Southern Baptist, I don't know, I'm just trying to, or like an evangelical or something kind of more dedicated, if you will, to your religion. I feel like there'd be social pressure at Google to not be religious. Like we're like, I work, like people
absolutely.
People are religious, there are people who wear headscarves, there are people who are Indian, there are people who are Buddhist, or, you know, like Hindu Indian or Buddhist Indian, or like Chinese Buddhist or Japanese Buddhist. Like here in Columbus, like everybody's kind of chill with everything you want to do, whether you're conservative or liberal. So
yeah, I will say I do think Columbus is like closer to real American diversity than the West Coast is.
Yeah. So that's that. You know, so that, I think that was I mean, it's a little bit of a deeper topic than, and you know,
and obviously both of us have pretty strong opinions on this sort of thing.
Right, and you know, so that's why I wanted to put in the disclaimer, because I feel like some people listen to something like this and they immediately think that, like, oh, you're just like defending this guy or something like that. And I don't know if I'm defending him, but I am defending his right to, you know, speak up. I mean, he should feel like, if he has, like, let's say, if you have misguided views, you should still feel free to speak those misguided views and then have an open discussion about them. And if you can't, then your company culture has a problem.
Well, it's not just that, and it's not just the company culture. I think there's a culture in the U.S. in general for people to sort of isolate themselves and just I mean, everyone
on both sides. I mean,
no. It's not even both sides. It's every single side. It's every single issue. It's people with niche opinions and people with very widespread opinions. This is not. I mean, this is not even necessarily a political issue.
It's probably more of an internet.
Yeah, no, it's
thanks Facebook.
It is definitely, and it's not even Facebook, but it's definitely an internet issue. People are burying themselves in echo chambers, and it's almost a natural sort of biological thing that you couldn't do before. You couldn't really do before the internet got widespread. But I think it's poisonous, and I think you're starting to see a lot of people who just will not listen to people they disagree with.
Yeah.
Like how often do you, I guess, listen to or read political view or publications that have a slant that you strongly disagree with?
Not often, but I mean, so for me personally, it's just I don't really run into it. So I mean maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, so I do that, but I make a concerted effort of it, and sometimes it's hard, right? You're like, I really disagree with this. I mean, this person is dumb, and you kind of want to do something about it, but you can't. But most people are just not willing to subject themselves to things they disagree with anymore. Right. And so I think that's why. I think that's part of why something like this is so contentious.
Yeah. So I mean, I would be willing to have a discussion with somebody. So let's say somebody says,
yeah, I might not agree with this guy, but I would sit down and talk with him.
Right. Exactly. And that's I think that's largely what we care about is we're both pretty open.
Yeah, and I would also sit down and talk with somebody who wrote an article calling him a Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. And be like, okay, so why do you think that? What do you think about
how are you defining Nazi?
Yeah, exactly, because that word's getting thrown around way too much.
I mean, honestly, this is a tangent, but I think what happened is racists lost all his power, and
so they moved on to Nazi.
Well, so they moved on to white supremacists, and that worked for a week.
Yeah.
And so then it became Nazi, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've.
Yeah, I'm so tired of
danced all through that topic.
Yeah, it's because it's hard to not sound offensive when you're not trying to be, especially when you don't even agree, but then you agree with part of it, which is you should just be able to say. I mean, you should be able to say you can't just come out and be like. I mean, although there are people who do this, be like all women suck at engineering or something stupid like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that, but. The interesting thing about the article is the guy says stuff and it's if depending on some of the things, again, I'm not going to bother reading it, but you're saying certain things and some of them people find incredibly wrong, but they're unwilling to engage in any sort of discussion about
right. And I mean, honestly, if you look back 15-20 years ago, this guy had legitimate study. I mean, he had the majority of science sort of backing him up in his corner in the fields of sociology and psychology, right?
Yeah.
This is a relatively recent change, and people are acting this is a relatively recent change in human social science, and people are acting like he's a Klansman.
Yeah, and that's what I don't like. I just don't like the overreaction because even let's say you even completely disagree with the guy and you thought he's vile and racist and sexist, which I don't think he is, just based on some of the tidbits I picked up. But the overreaction to it, you're just feeding the troll. So you're just being dumb by overreacting to it, and that's what people are. That's what that bothers me. And then
I mean, so I guess my final thoughts on this is that people just need to sit down and have discussions with people they disagree with.
Yeah.
I probably spent an hour talking about the same topic actually earlier today with my girlfriend.
All right. Well, I am worn out from discussing these subjects today. So.
All right.
Before we go, so send us some feedback if you think we're a bunch of idiots or you think we're really smart. Either way, send us our emails will be in our description here. So send us something and.
Yep.
Or if you have any good events coming up that you want us to highlight, we're pretty pro community. So.
Or if you just want to email us and say hi, please.
Yeah, we're literally.
Please just email us. But anyways, if you want to contact us, just email Trevor or Eric at columbusthisweek.com.
Send all the hate mail to Trevor though.
No, don't do that. That goes to Eric.
Okay, I can take it.
All right, Eric. I think that's a wrap for today. This has been Columbus This Week, and I hope they have a great week.
See you.
Do you have anything else to add?
Nope, that's it.
All right. See you next week.
Hey, this is Trevor. The podcast is going out late. It's going out right after I finish editing this, but I wanted to record a quick addendum on my on the discussion we just had regarding the feature, the Google Manifesto, as it's being called now. So I was very poorly researched on the topic when Eric brought it up, but I think my opinion has evolved since then. And I'm going to write a longer article on our website, columbusthisweek.com. But I did just want to give a short correction of my opinion. In general, I mostly agree with the content of the memo, and I also think, and I think when I said that the writer had the backing of science 10, 15 years ago, I don't think that was completely accurate. I think even now, if you look at articles coming out, scientists tend to rally behind the actual data he's citing. Like I said, I'll do a more in-depth writing of my thoughts, but I just wanted to put this out there. Thanks for listening.